Hello, and welcome to Romance Isn't Dead, episode 26, Pride and Prejudice, the movie edition. Hello, Ray. How are you?
Not too bad. Cold. Wrapped up in a cardigan. Yeah. Wrapped up in a cardigan.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
It's called... We know what it is. It's England, autumn, cold weather. Clocks go back in a month.
Ours don't go back for some time, actually. Well, today is a special day. We are releasing this special edition of the podcast in honor of
International Podcast Day.
And as
Yay!
our listeners know, we are an international podcast, in case you couldn't tell from the accents. And so we are also going to do something a little different. We're going to be looking at the movies that were partially inspired or inspired by Pride and Prejudice. Also international. Kudos, Ray. Kudos, Ray.
I do try.
So what movie did you pick that was inspired by Jane Austen's classic Pride and Prejudice?
My favourite book ever. I actually watched Bride and Prejudice, which is a very Bollywood, very brightly coloured, modern take on Pride and Prejudice. Because it's actually one of my favourite films, and I think that it is a really fun film. And it came out in 2004.
Okay, and so I chose to watch 2005's Pride and Prejudice, and I know that it is not Ray's favorite version, but I really enjoyed it, and I actually brought my 10-year-old daughter in, or not 10, she's 11.
Do not do that. I think that she might get a bit...
Let's not talk about it. But she's 11, and so I brought her in. I said, make some popcorn, and we're going to watch this movie. And so she made some popcorn, and we watched this movie together, so that was fun. And, yes, we're recording to talk about this. So.
Yeah.
Yes. What do we want to say?
I loved it. I have to say, I purposely chose this film. Well, actually, there's a few reasons why I chose it. One, because I think... watching the 2005 version would have killed me. I've only ever walked out of 2 films in the cinema, and this was one of them. Matrix Revolutions was the other. Total different ends of the spectrum there. But I watched Bride and Prejudice. I went through a phase in the early 2000s where I loved Bollywood. And this film coming out was... it was a really creative take because Indian society was always interpreted as being very arranged marriage. So in a way it had that Regency take to it. And they used that to great advantage. And it was really well cut. The songs are hilariously funny and fun. But there is still an undertone of seriousness. And it stars Alexis Bledel, Rory Gilmore, as Georgiana.
That's interesting.
Because in this version, Fitzwilliam Darcy becomes William Darcy, and Lady Catherine is actually his mother, and they're an American hotel family, so they own hotels all over the world.
Okay.
But the storyline, it still follows the whole, he's there with his best friend, and his best friend falls in love with Lalita's, that's Lizzie's sister, and he's talked out of marrying her because of her mother.
Okay.
And her mother is a very traditional... she's got 4 daughters, not 5. And she's got to marry them all. She sees it as her duty to marry them all off. And there's an absolutely hilarious song, because, of course, Mr. Collins, their version of Mr. Collins is Mr. Coley, and he comes over from America. He's got a green card, and he's an accountant, and he is talks with his mouth full, eats with his mouth open, and he's in India to find a traditional wife, because in America, or America as he says it, that all Indian girls who were born in America are he uses very, very funny terms to refer to them, and he says, and some of them even turn, and then he lowers his voice, lesbian.
Oh, I see.
So he doesn't realize that a lot of his characteristics are the reason why he's having a problem, and he actually uses the line, no life, no without wife, which stems an entire Bollywood song, which is funny, very funny.
Okay.
It looks like they had fun making the film, if the end credits are anything to go by as well.
Right. Cool. Very cool.
You did watch the far more traditional version, though.
I did, and 2 hours 15 minutes long, 2005. It starred Keira Knightley and Matthew McFadden, or Fadian. I'm not sure exactly how to say it. Fadian. Okay, McFadden. Yeah. I liked Keira Knightley as Elizabeth Bennet. I did. And Rosamund Pike as Jane Bennet, of course, beautiful. And the character of Jane frustrates me a little bit because she's just a bit too insipid for me. But which is exactly what we said. Yeah. I said in the episode. Yeah. So, I'm not even sure what I need to say here. I liked the visuals in this movie. The difference between where the Bennets live versus Pemberley versus Bingley's house, just so crystal clear cut, right? So you can see this different strata of English society in which these people exist. Even though Mr. Darcy is just a Mr. He's not Lord anything. He's just Mr. Right? He has money, but he's not titled. Even though Bingley has money, but he's not titled. So you can see that I guess technically they are of a similar class because, the Bennets similar class. Like the Bennets, they have a big house. It's not a bad house. And they do have a couple of servants, but not like Bingley, not like Darcy. So there's you can see the stratification of English society in the Georgian era. So that's, I think, important, and I love those visuals. And for whatever reason, I decided to pull my daughter in to watch it with me. And it was such a delight to watch this movie with her as well, for her to sort of discover this with me. And she just, at the end, when Darcy made his first botched proposal, and he's just...
What? I find myself, as much as I've tried to fight it, I find myself in love with you. That one.
That's the one. And where he says, despite the fact that, your family sucks, I still love you. And it's like, wow, dude, you've got to work on this, Like, are you serious right now?
Well, and also, despite the fact that I told my best friend he shouldn't have anything to do with your sister.
Right. And then he goes back and he makes up for it. And he said, you must know it's all for you, and it was just like, oh, he got it, and yeah, so it's just really kind of cool to watch it with my daughter and to see her discover these and have these feelings. She just, when Bingley comes and he proposes to Jane and all that, she's like, oh, and then there's this great visual when Darcy and Elizabeth finally reach their like, yes, we're in love with each other and whatnot, and the sunlight is like shining right between the two of them. It's really a beautiful picture. And my daughter's like, it's so beautiful. Oh my gosh, it's beautiful. It was so much fun to watch it with her. And I'm sorry, that's my dog Maggie. I wish I could say we kind of named her after Maggie Smith, but my kids don't know that. Don't tell
It's
them.
Kind of, well, that's the thing.
They wouldn't go
it's
for
kind of like
Minerva.
me with my cat.
Yeah,
my cat's name. Yeah,
they
wouldn't have gone for Maggie.
Yeah, they wouldn't go for Minerva. McGonagall.
Why not?
They just didn't want to go for it, so I went for the actress in real life.
Well, I named my cat Darcy, and everybody thinks that I named her for Darcy in Pride and Prejudice or Darcy Bustle, the ballerina. I named her for neither.
Yeah, I know that.
Most people don't, though.
So,
and I get this blank look with, who did you name her for then? Doesn't matter. I named her for someone, and I'm fine with that.
Yep. So, anyway, there's something about these adaptations of Austen novels that, for instance, I really enjoyed Clueless, which is obviously an adaptation of Emma.
It is indeed.
And I just got a kick out of that. It was so much fun to watch and to put it set in, high school. And I very specifically was checking ages and whatnot when I went to go watch this movie I watched it last night, and Keira Knightley's character Elizabeth Bennet was supposed to be about 20, and so there was nothing about her that was jarring to me there.
And that's the thing, she was supposed to be 20 and Jane was supposed to be turning 23, because the ages are actually mentioned in the book. They say, oh, and you're 23 and unmarried. Lydia comments to Jane, oh, well, it's better than being 23 and unmarried, when she's talking about finding a husband. And she's only supposed to be about 15, I think.
Yeah, she's 15, and she's an idiot.
Well, yeah, she's an idiot. In the version that in Bride and Prejudice, her name is Lucky, and she is very upfront and
Is she also an idiot?
Oh, yes, she's a total idiot. However, she runs off with Wickham, Johnny Wickham, as he is, played by Rachel Lee Cook's husband. But she is very, very stupid. However, she doesn't end up marrying him.
How do they get around it?
She's rescued. The whole reason Lalita and Darcy end up together in a way is because, though there are a few more, like a girlfriend shows up and everything else, though there are those things, he actually goes with Lizzie and they rescue Lucky from his clutches before anything can happen.
Wow.
And returns her home. So she's not forced to marry. She isn't in a position where she has to marry him or anything else. It's it's not cleanly done, but there's a fight. They go to a cinema where they're showing an old Bollywood film, and there's a punch up in the cinema between Johnny and Darcy.
I see.
And then then Wickham actually says, "But it was all for you, Lalita." And after Lalita's smacked him around the face, Lucky goes and smacks him around the face, so he gets his comeuppance in a way, far more so than in the book, where he ends up getting pretty much everything he wanted, though he probably didn't want a wife.
Definitely not that wife. Definitely not that wife. She's difficult.
Yes, she's very difficult. And the situation with him and Georgie, with Johnny and Georgie, he was actually the son of their nanny. And he ran off with Georgie when she was 16 and got her pregnant.
What?
Yes. So there are slight differences, but then it's also based in India, London, and Hollywood, in Amritsar, London, and Hollywood.
Wow.
So there's a lot of bright colours, loads of different scenery, lots of things to look at, and it's also obviously based in modern times. So
right. Well, and that's also I think that's cool to have it set in modern times, because that is so very different from what, of course, is happening in the version of Pride and Prejudice that I watched, which
definitely
was just, basically an adaptation of the book straight up. And so it was really cool to see the costuming as well. That was fun. I enjoyed the costuming. I'm not entirely certain about the accuracy of a few of the costumes, but it wasn't enough to like send me over the edge or anything like that. I was like, maybe she'd have covered her shoulders a little more, you know what I mean? But that wasn't enough to really take me out of the movie or anything like that. I thought they did a good job.
Yeah, so I think that's the difference between reading the book and watching a film or watching a miniseries. You see, my favourite is the Andrew Davis 1995 Pride and Prejudice with Colin Firth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That for me is if I'm going to watch a version of Pride and Prejudice rather than an adaptation, it will be that one.
Okay. How long is that one?
It's 6 episodes of an hour long, so it's 6 hours in total.
Okay.
It doesn't feel like that to me, though. And I remember when it first aired on TV in the UK, it was on a Sunday night at 9 o'clock for an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And that's on a channel that doesn't have adverts.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a straight up hour. And then I bought the video box set. And now I have the DVD box set. But it's also on Netflix. So...
Right.
And Prime, actually. So I don't have any problem if I want to watch it. And it is probably what Colin Firth became famous for.
He is a lot of people's Darcy. And, other modern adaptations include Bridget Jones's Diary.
In which he also plays Darcy.
In which he plays Darcy. And so he is typecast as the prideful English gentleman.
Well, he also plays the king. Yeah. And because he has played a few slightly different roles, but I think that is the role that he is definitely most famous for.
Yeah. And I like Colin Firth. I'm not saying anything bad about him or anything like that.
See, for me, Matthew McFadden was never Darcy, and I think that was my problem with the film. Well, that and the fact that I didn't really enjoy it.
I don't know. I have a hard time understanding, like, you know what? No, I don't. You were so attached to the book that because a 2-hour and 15-minute movie has to make sacrifices,
mm-hmm.
you weren't willing to make those sacrifices.
No, probably not.
And,
I have to admit, I do have a very, very strong attachment to the book.
Mm-hmm. So, because you weren't willing to make those sacrifices, make those adjustments in your head, you're not going to like it. So
that's the thing. I think there are quite a few books that you read and you have an attachment to, and then you watch the film, and they've sacrificed an entire plot point that you personally considered important or necessary, and you come out of it thinking, well, that changed the entire tenor. It's kind of like Peter not losing his leg in Hunger Games.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that changed everything.
Mm-hmm. That didn't bother me, but I think because that didn't bother me, but I understand what you're saying. But then again, I wasn't as attached to those books either, so...
No, that's the thing. I mean, I wasn't attached to them, but I think because I'd read them so soon before I watched the movies, there were certain elements that I didn't understand why they'd left them out.
Mm-hmm.
Because they weren't a key plot point, but they were a plot point that had some bearing on behaviour.
Mm-hmm.
And for them not to use that, it struck me as a little bit odd. It's kind of like Percy Jackson. Percy Jackson in the movies is a lot older than Percy Jackson in the books.
Okay. Yeah. What?
Because in the books, he's I want to say he's about 11, maybe 12. He's quite young in the books, and in the movies, he's old enough to drive.
Yeah, he's a teen. He's definitely
a teen. Yeah.
That's true. I didn't really read the books. My daughter did, and she adored them. So I get that. I understand.
See, so they changed things to suit. I don't know if it's they changed them because they have to,
mm-hmm.
in order to get the film green lit or something. But they changed certain things, and you think, well, okay.
Not sure
why
that
did you
was
change?
Totally necessary, but all
Exactly.
right.
It's kind of like, I know a lot of people. I remember when Goblet of Fire came out, and a lot of people were commenting and criticizing the color of Hermione's dress for the ball,
mm-hmm.
because it wasn't the color that it was in the book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I remember.
It's weird. It's weird things like that people are looking at, and then you watch some films, and it's like, but they've missed out an entire character.
Mm-hmm.
It's like in the Twilight films, they merged all of the friends that Bella had into one person. Not criticizing, just saying.
I didn't, I'll be honest with you, I did not watch those films, so...
I took my niece to see the first one.
I watched one of them, I think, so I can't really speak to it, but anyway. Well, so in the final analysis, you would 100% recommend?
I definitely, if you haven't seen Bride and Prejudice, I would 100% recommend you watch it, mostly because it's fun. Okay. It's a really good girls' night in with a bottle of wine and a tub of ice cream.
Okay, and where can you find it? Do you know?
Well, you can quite often, Netflix does cycles.
Mm-hmm.
It has cycles of films that it will be on there for a few months, then it will come off, and then 2 months later it's back on again. You can find it there. I found it on my DVD bookcase because I have it already on DVD because I went and saw it in the cinema.
Fair.
Yeah, I went and saw it in the cinema, so it is available on DVD, which is where I got it from.
Mm-hmm.
But it has been, and it probably will be again, either on Netflix or on Amazon Prime or
mm-hmm.
somewhere like that. And it's not, if you do want to see it and you have to pay for it, I think it's about, in the UK, it's about $2.99 or something.
To rent it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, I would also recommend the 2005 Pride and Prejudice. I really enjoyed it. I found it on Stars, which is a monthly subscription service, but I do know that I think you can also rent it on Amazon Prime. It's not currently available on Netflix, but you can definitely find it if you're looking for it. So
it was available until last month on Netflix on UK and US, and then all of a sudden it went bye-bye.
They just do that. So anyway, I got it on Stars. So and believe it or not, I don't normally actually use Stars very much, but I was glad that I had it so I could watch the movie easily. And it was fun. I really enjoyed it, and just sometimes it's nice to watch a movie, a little bit of a mindless movie, and I think Keira Knightley's a good actress, so I think she did a decent job with it. So I really liked it.
See, of course, if you're a traditionalist and you've got 6 hours to spare, if you've got 6 hours to spare, or you've got 3 hours on one day and 3 hours on another, I would still heartily recommend, because I don't think things like this really date.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're already dated. Be fair, they're already dated. So the 1995 BBC version of Pride and Prejudice. It is 6 hours long, so it is a commitment, but it is worthwhile. Especially if you're doing Pride and Prejudice A-level. If you're doing Pride and Prejudice in your A-levels, I definitely recommend watching this rather than the movie for book accuracy.
Sure, absolutely. But I was watching for entertainment, not book accuracy.
Yeah, exactly.
I would also say that there have been modern adaptations like Bridget Jones's Diary as well, which that ages Elizabeth up a bit because Bridget is anyway. But
she's turning 30.
Yeah, and it's this whole big thing, and she wants to lose 5 pounds. But anyway, so I'm like, 5 pounds, man. That's like a deck chair off the Titanic for me. But okay, 5 pounds. You don't get the joke?
Yeah, I get the joke.
Okay.
It's like a teaspoon of sugar for me, so.
Yeah, like, oh, you mean the Golden Gate Bridge lost a rivet? Okay. But yeah, she wanted to lose, maybe it was 6 pounds. I don't remember. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. But the point is there are modern adaptations if you prefer modern adaptations. But the costuming is lovely in a lot of these. And I've seen excerpts of the miniseries. I just haven't watched that start to finish. And it looks beautiful as well. So
it is stunning.
So anyway, if you like good visuals, I think it sounds like both of these movies are good for visuals. Like you get.
Oh yeah, there's so much bright. I mean, India is always portrayed in films as being very, very brightly coloured, and everything is so. It is very, very reds, yellows, greens. Everything is incredibly vibrant, and the costumes are absolutely stunning.
Very cool. Well, I think that might be all we need to say this lovely day. Or do we have other things we need to say?
I don't think so. Just remember that last week we told you about the book for next week. Good grief. And it's going to be Catherine Coulter's The Sherbrooke Bride, which is part of the Sherbrooke series that she wrote.
Okay, and that's the first one, right?
It is the first one, yes.
All right, cool. Very cool. All right, well, I think then we will call it here, and happy International Podcast Day.
Yay. Celebrate it by listening to our past podcasts.
Okay.
And leave a like or a comment or anything. We don't bite, sort of.
Very hard.
My cat will argue with that one.
Oh, God. Okay, so how would you, or do you want to let everybody know how to find you, Ray?
Yeah, you can find me at All About Ray on Twitter, and you can find us at ISN Romance, and also on romancenotdead.wordpress.com, and you can find us by searching for Romance Isn't Dead on Goodreads and Facebook.
Perfect. All right, y'all, you can find me as Palmetto Blue on Twitter and Tumblr. And if you really want to know random stuff, you can also find me on Pinterest as Palmetto Blue.
What about Instagram?
Yeah, don't bother with Tumblr. Why did I say Tumblr?
I don't know. Yeah, I did wonder that, which is why I said, what about Instagram?
Yeah, I meant Instagram. Y'all, it's been a long day. Okay, so if you want to find me, I am Palmetto Blue on Instagram and Twitter, as well as Pinterest, which is a very esoteric place to find me, but you can find me there. How would you like to sign out, Ray?
I'd like to say keep on searching for your happily ever after.
And I would remind you that romance isn't dead. It's alive and well on your bookshelf, or maybe even on your television. Bye.
Bye.